2 hour power thinking, rejuvenating your amazing mind training for Wednesday. It is June 17, 2026, and this is our 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time edition. I'm your moderator, Stanley Green. I'm joined by a special power thinking member of 6 years now, going back to the COVID days, Timothy Butts, who is a real tech person, a leader in technology and healthcare. And but what's more important for this evening is you want to hear a story that he'll share in terms of his connection with a world champion, the recent world champion New York Knicks, who is, they're going to have a big celebration in New York. And I don't think folks will be going to, young people will be going to school, or folks will be going to work. Um, but it's going to be a big celebration, and it is all about the New York Knicks, who have not won a championship uh, since 1973. First time since person who was the most valuable player is a young man by the name of Jalen Brunson. And we've seen him, many of you may have seen him on all kinds of interviews, from sports related interviews to news shows to The View. I believe, what was he? Yes, he was on The View. He was just about on every program. And so we're going to talk about the resilience of where Jalen Brunson was interviewed. It was 6 minutes, but I thought it'd be just important to watch the first 3 minutes, because in that you were able to delve into the mindset of a champion. Here was a team who, if you counted up all the minutes in the games that they played, five games, and they won the series. Was it 4-1, right? 5 games. And for a majority of the minutes of the opposing team, San Antonio was leading. And in one game, they led by as many as 29 points. 29 points. And typically, when something like that happens, people turn off the television set and they go, well, you know what? This will walk away. They're going to win. They quit. They give up. But this team didn't. And so what separated them from every other team in the NBA? We saw it working there, and it is that resilience. But what is it about resilience? We share with you each week those 7 inner strengths of resilience and the 7 skills. And so we'll kind of go through that, but love to hear from you. Hit that *6 anytime on the if you're on the phone lines. What are your thoughts about that series and about the inner strengths that were displayed? What did you hear from Jalen Brunson in terms of the strengths that propelled them to winning? So just hit that *6 on the phone lines. If you're on LinkedIn, make a comment. We'd love to hear from you. But I'd like to welcome my special co-host, longtime Power Thinking Plus member, and now Power Thinking Corp mobile app user, Timothy Butts. Timothy, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us this morning and again this evening.
Thank you so much, Stanley. Thank you to the whole family here. It's great to be with you. It's great to share some life experiences with you. I got smiles all over because I'm beaming. You know how it feels when you've had a place in someone's life and then you see them go on and do great things. So I'm going to share with you why I feel that way and some of the things that I learned in my life experiences in working with Jalen Brunson and his family. So I look forward to sharing that. Do you want me to dive into it, or how do you want me to play this?
Yeah, so let me do this. Let me go over those 7 inner strengths of resilience, and then as you speak, I'm going to bring up some of the comments. We see that we have folks who are on. We have Carla Hill who's on the line, and we'll get to Carla, and we have a number of folks will be flashing up their comments. Christy Williams from Florida, and Jackie Holberg, brother Charlie Lewis. Merrill Katz, who's in Northern Jersey. So you're talking about the New York Metro. And so we thank you all for joining, and we'll be flashing your comments up. So I'm going to go through those inner strengths of resilience. And I want you to think about what was said in the video, and um, what you may have observed during the series, and see if the New York Knicks possess all of that. So first, when we're talking about resilient people, and studies were done over decades, and the University of Pennsylvania's Positive Psychology Center identified 7 strengths that resilient people have at a very high level. The first is emotion regulation, that ability to stay calm under pressure. And I want you to think about some of the leading players for the New York Knicks, and then some of the players for the opposing team, the San Antonio Spurs. The ability to stay calm under pressure. What team had, the majority of their players, you know, being able to regulate their emotions, and what team didn't. You may have seen outbursts from one side or the other. Impulse control, the ability not to say or do the first thing that comes to mind. And typically, if you do have this negative emotion of anger, then the next step is you're going to do something. You may, say some choice words. You may swing at someone, which is the kind of thing that you see. Um, but resilient folks are able to control both their emotions and their impulses. There's empathy, the ability to understand another person's experiences and emotions. There's self efficacy, the belief that you, regardless of how bad things are, that ultimately you have control over your ability to succeed. And related to that is the optimism, the view that no matter how bad things are, there's going to be a successful outcome. There's going to be a successful outcome. We're going to do this. Yes, we're down by 29 points, but we're going to figure it out, and we're going to do it. Causal analysis, you know, drilling down to the root cause of a situation or problem. It's time out. What are we doing wrong? Here's the root cause of why we're down by 29. We got to fix that. We got to fix it now, and then reaching out. And that is taking action. And what did you hear in the video about that in the interview? When faced with a setback or challenge, as opposed to just giving up, um, and connecting with other people, reaching out and connecting. And so, who was the more, which team obviously was the more connected team, and how did you see that? Where they had this great connectivity versus the other team that, even though they were leading most of the game, when it counted, they weren't connected. So Timothy, tell us, you coached Jalen Brunson, the MVP of the NBA playoffs, when he was back in, I believe it was kindergarten and first grade and second grade.
And
So
on and
tell us,
on.
how did
Yep.
that happen? I mean, you're in Houston and you're in New Mexico, and I understand that he was growing up in South Jersey. How did
Right.
this come about?
Right. Yeah. So power thinking family, check this out. I've been blessed to work in healthcare technology. I formerly was in charge of innovation for Mayo Clinic in Minnesota. And my father had a stroke, and our family left Minnesota, came back to Pennsylvania so that I could be closer to family. And so, with my kids at that age being, let's see, bottom line, we moved back with Tim Jr. being like in second grade, Christian being in preschool, and then they both got really want to get into the kids stuff. I wanted to coach because I began to see, as a dad, I wanted to make sure that they didn't have to be confronted with some crazy parents. And I'm going to put that in perspective. Before the basketball, we went and watched a Pee Wee football game. We were watching other kids play. Kid runs down the field, runs out of bounds, and the coach walks over to him, grabs him by the face mask. These are like little Pee Wees, and shook his face mask. And I was like, no way. I walked over to the guy and I'm like, I'm thinking about our kids playing football here, and you can't be the football coach anymore. I hadn't even jumped in yet. And I just said, me and the parents over here that are watching you won't tolerate that for our kids. And right at that moment, I then thrust myself into one, learning sports that my kids wanted to play, and two, making sure I had the time and bandwidth to be a coach. So that was a life changing situation right there. But I just chose to do it, thrust myself in, prayed about it, and got into it. So that then led to me coaching them for the next, what, 8 years at the YMCA in Voorhees, New Jersey, in basketball. So, good friend Derek Satchel over in Cherry Hill, he and I began coaching, and we were just building a core group of kids for Tim Jr.'s team. So, by the time Tim Jr. reached fourth grade and Christian was in first grade, I was coaching two teams, meeting a lot of different parents, and I kind of got into the rhythm. And it was a beautiful thing because I'm always focused on the kids, make sure they have a great experience, learning how to be teammates, have play dates away from there, but also keeping up with your homework and all that stuff. Bottom line, a woman approached me and she says, I like how you treat the kids. I like how you're interacting and making sure they're on their point. I want my kid to play for you. I'm like, okay. And how old's your kid? She says, oh, he's in kindergarten, but he'll need to play on your fourth grade team. I was like, what? And she says, yeah, he'll play on your fourth grade team and he'll
Oh,
need
so
to be.
you said the fourth grade team, not the first or
No,
second grade
no,
team.
no. The kid was in kindergarten, and she told me he needs to play on your fourth grade team. He needs to be your point guard, and make sure he only plays with his right hand because he's naturally left-handed. She had this whole agenda, man. It was wild, and I was like, "Okay." And what's the deal with this? She says, "Well, he's been working out with his dad, and he's learning some things about basketball. But I really want him to learn from another person and I want him to get together with kids his own age because right now he's just spending time with his dad." I said, kindergarten, playing time with his dad. All of us, come on now. When you think about that, you're thinking, oh, occasionally I'll go out on a basketball court with my dad and play ball. What I didn't know was there was a basketball court in their backyard. Dad was a professional basketball player, and mom was a professional volleyball player. And she was basically telling me, this is what the agenda is going to be, and here's how you fit in it. So, so the following, cause a couple of days later, she says, "Come over, check us out. We're gonna be by the swimming pool." So came over by the swimming pool. She introduced me to little Jalen and his sister, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll be playing for you." And these your kids? I was like, "Yeah." He says, "How you doing? I'm Jalen." And Tim says, "How you doing?" And Christian says, "How you doing?" Sister says, "How you doing?" And from that point on, they began doing the little play dates thing, but also on the basketball court. The first time we hit the court, he was doing no look passes. He was doing dribbles behind his back. It was like, what? Because he had been so engrossed, as his dad would put it now, his dad had introduced it to him right out of the womb. That if you'll see interviews from Rick, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
he'll say introduced him right out of the womb, and a lot of his um, methodologies, Jalen was just soaking them up. So because Jalen was as I learned, naturally inquisitive, a sponge for method, as well as very, very, very resilient. Mom and dad taught him how to be resilient. They taught him sportsmanship, and they taught him. Well, I'll give you examples. There were times where if our team was down, he would come over to the side, stand there, listen. Okay, coach. Okay, coach. Okay, we got out there. He says, "You heard what coach said? Let's go do it." Boom, jumped right into it, passing the ball, no look passes, all that kind of stuff. We went undefeated for like 6 years. It was crazy. So it's like it raised the game of all the kids. It built camaraderie. So, like I said, I was coaching other sports. So Jalen's mom and dad would say, "No, basketball is the only thing he'll play. We'll come and
Wow.
support you guys. But if you're coaching football or if you're coaching track, we'll say go, 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 go. But Jalen's not doing that with you guys because he's just playing basketball. That's it." So it was really cool because that same core group of kids, I was able to coach with them. And Cherry Hill East, and Stan, you're a witness to it. Cherry Hill East, when that group got up to senior high school, they went like they were beasts. But prior to that, they were doormats. So
Mhm.
preparing kids to learn sportsmanship, how to really have a great team chemistry. If you keep that core together, amazing things can happen. So hence you look at the Nova Knicks, and that same value proposition was there. because it was very clear that Jay Wright, through teaching all those guys together, and then of course the coach at Temple having teaching Rick when he was playing ball, and then he went to the Knicks, Don Chaney, all those values were all coming out in the messages. So it was fantastic being able to experience that wealth of knowledge from them, but likewise being in a position to utilize it, swim in it, and also to witness it as um, as Jalen would interact with me, because I'm going to make it about him, right? I mean, I'm watching CBS News and he's talking about the importance of resilience and never quitting, and I got to see that in its youngest form and
Wow.
years and years and years. So in what, middle school, high school, he was player of the year, Mr. Basketball over in Illinois, because they moved there to go to a private school, very focused on basketball, but also very focused on scholars at his academics. He finished college in 3 years. I don't know if you guys knew that. He
I didn't know.
finished college, yes, in 3 years, nailed it, got great grades, and then was able to like say, hey, that's behind me. That gives me extra time to play more basketball. So
Mm.
to this day, his mom still calls me Coach Tim, and we are able to interact and really talk things up. In fact, when the Knicks won, if you guys are tracking this, when they won the in-season tournament, and I reached out to her and I'm like, this is giving me the idea you guys are going to win the end of the year tournament. And she's
Wow.
like, don't count your chickens before they're hatched. And I was like, I'm just saying, I saw some things out there, and you guys just won the in-season tournament. So make it happen. And they did. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, that's tremendous, and just a great story. This is the stuff that you won't get on CBS or ESPN,
Indeed.
folks. We're talking going way back. They go back to Villanova or maybe high school. Yeah, to go back to high school in Illinois, but not back to kindergarten. And then when you go back to kindergarten, there's only one coach that was involved outside of his dad, and that's Timothy Butts. Let's go to Carla Hill on the phone lines, and anyone else, feel free to hit that *6. Carla, thanks for joining us. Mention where you're joining us from, and your thoughts about the resilience of the New York Knicks. Welcome.
Yes, thank you, Stan. Carly Hill in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Tim, thank you for sharing that inspiring story, just making a difference in future generations. I know that's just very, it must just feel great,
Absolutely.
right? Just to be
Oh,
part
yeah.
of someone's, but part of the supply chain, so to speak, right? It's
Indeed.
wonderful. It's wonderful. And I love the video, just in terms of seeing, Charles and Shaq and the interview, but in terms of what really stuck out was the humility of Brunson
Hmm.
and the leadership, because what he talked about was, what came up in my mind is putting the oxygen mask over yourself. He said, I'm going to be fine, but I needed to make sure everybody else was going to be up to the task. Right? It's like we think while we climb, we're going to do this together. And I heard a stat that in terms of, the NBA has ceilings for how much payroll, how large the payroll could be. And he actually took significant, left money on the table, so to speak, to make sure that he was positioned to win. I mean, there's no guarantee.
Yeah.
There's 8 different teams that won over the 8 years, so it's taking a shot. So like close to $100 million, but and just the one day at a time. Basically, what he talked about was, yes, I knew we had the 29-point deficit, but I wasn't losing track of the day by day, and it really, my dad was a rabid Knicks fan. I was born and raised in New York, and my dad's no longer here, but I knew he would have been in San Antonio. Because he's a Jet season ticket holder.
Wow.
See, I know fans.
Wow.
Like, I grew up a real, and I had to disengage. I just don't have the emotional capacity to really what it really takes to follow. So people, I just grew up a real fan, so I know that for those real diehard fans that had to wait 53 years, and I just love the energy that comes. To your point, stand. It becomes neutral. Everybody's doing high fives, black, white, Asian. Like there's no color.
Yeah,
When
no.
Yeah.
Political
I love it.
affiliation, religion,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You're
That's
Knicks
it.
fans.
That's it.
It's
That's
just
it.
it's lovely. So thank you so much for sharing and just in that space, and it just allowed me to remember my dad too, because he was like a rap
Indeed.
Jesus, you know.
Indeed.
He would have lost his mind. I don't know what he would have done. So it was great.
Fantastic. Thank you, Carla. Really appreciate it, and kudos to you because you're a native New Yorker, right? You hear those
Indeed.
songs. That's Carla, and they're playing those New York songs now, and you'll be hearing them tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
The different versions, and
Oh
they
yes.
they so deserve it.
Yep.
So when we talk about, he mentioned at the beginning of the interview, belief, right? That's that self-efficacy, our power thinking, resilience, inner strength. Number 4, self-efficacy, the belief that you have control over your ability to succeed. So we heard that, him say that. Did you get a sense that he had that in him, and that even as a kid younger than most of the kids on the team, that he was a leader back then?
Yes. I say that very quickly. He demonstrated it. His mom and dad demonstrated it. Because the good thing was his dad would come down and watch in Voorhees, New Jersey. So I'm looking over at the sideline. His mom, professional, his dad, professional, are right there, kind of like never reacting, but always like urging me on to do what I needed to do. So I learned a lot about coaching, but they are always leading. So by putting him in a position and saying he will be the point guard, they were already telling me they wanted to position him in the mindset of a leader, to be that general out on the floor, but also know how to go to battle and lead people, because by him playing up three levels, he was already playing with kids much taller than him. He was already playing with kids much stronger than him, and that's I like to call it the Jalen stare. I saw it early on. If somebody
Wow.
tried to run and tried to knock him down, he would stare at them. Then the next play, he would come and drive to the hoop at that person. It's like, okay, so he got that early. I think he learned it from his dad. His dad was more of a defensive player. Rick was more of a defensive player. But
Right.
yeah, I definitely saw those dynamics, the leadership dynamics, the resiliency, the strength, and wanting to set the tone. So it was a wonderful experience. And you always talk about one player can raise the game of others. If I had my sons on here with me right now, I'm sure they would tell you, working with a kid in that situation of seeing how they raised their game, and it carried out for other sports that they wound up doing. Tim wound
Mhm.
up setting records in his high school track team because he knew he could do it, because we had more conversations about let's go do it and such and such. And that stuff permeates. If you
Yes.
surround yourself with a certain mindset, it will spread. You are what you entertain, right?
Right.
So you really can immerse yourself in that and just raise your game. And I'm so glad we're blessed to have been immersed in that. And my kids and I look back at a lot of different life experiences we've done together, and that being one major one.
Yeah. So what I didn't know
Yeah.
was that Tim was in kind of the competitive town to our town. I lived in, my wife and I, we were in Mount Laurel, New Jersey for a few decades and raised our kids there, and one, played on the basketball team in high school that had the best record ever, and then the second one came along and they went undefeated and won the state championship for the first time for Lenape High. And so when I coached mine as well, and they're a little older, so when we would play against different towns, it was like what called a travel team, and we would play
Right.
against the town you were in, Voorhees.
Yep. Yeah.
And it was a guy named Talifero who was the coach.
Yes.
And he was
Yes.
the dad of Adam Talifero, who had the tragic accident at
At
Penn
Rutgers.
State. Uh,
Was it Rutgers or Penn State?
he played at Penn State.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
right.
right. That's right. Okay.
So I don't know who they played against when it happened, but he may have been only a freshman then.
Yep.
So we were there in the neighboring towns,
Yeah.
and they were very competitive games, always with Voorhees. But I'll tell you about one dynamic. It's still hard to believe that he was in kindergarten and playing fourth graders, because when my kid came to my son came to we came from back from Northern Virginia back to South Jersey. He was a third grader, and it was tryouts for the travel team with fourth graders, and they only kept 8 players. And the
Yeah.
coach said, "Well, you have a decision to make because your guy is good enough to play with the fourth graders." And I said, "Well, yeah, I'll go ahead and do it." But what I noticed was that those fourth graders were so used to passing to each other, they wouldn't pass to him. So, how was Jalen ever able to get their attention and say, "Look, I'm not just some little kid, I'm, where you guys are. In fact, I'm the point guard. I can be your leader and lead you
Yep.
to victory." How
Yep.
does that happen when you have kids that they're so used to, each other and that grade, and it's a big difference. While the age is only a couple of years,
Yeah.
it's a significant difference in how they treat each other.
Absolutely. And maturity level too, right?
Yes.
Because kindergartners and first graders, they're the ones who typically run down a basketball court like little airplanes. Their arms are stuck out, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
He was focused on dribbling. He was focused on looking for the open man. He would come over to half court. And I remember we had the set play called Eagle. So if you said eagle, eagle, they would all come together and then everyone would go off. They'd parse off outer two, then the next two, and then the single man down the middle. And
Hmm.
he would know that so well, but he would look and do no look passes off of that stuff. And I was like, we weren't expecting that. But he was ready to pass the ball and he earned the respect of the other guys because he shared the ball. And it taught me and the guys a whole different level of culture and values within team sport because like you just said, older kids playing with a kindergartner, think about that. Anyone here who has kids, think about how that would have played out in front of you. Well, it
Hmm.
worked and we went undefeated with that because this kid came in with the mentality, the belief in himself, and he executed. So, what are you going to do? What are you going to say? It was fantastic. So it was great because his mom, all of us just got so closely knit when they came to Houston where he won his first Villanova championship. Hey Tim, you coming to the game? Oh, yeah, come on down here. Came down there, got a seat right next to his mom. Boom. I'm watching Villanova win their championship in Houston because you built relationships with people and it's
Right.
wonderful. I mean, like she like hits me up on Instagram saying, "Hey, Coach Tim, how's it going today?" It is such a great feeling to have built the relationships and watch this kid grow up into a man. And now he has kids. So it's fantastic.
Yeah. So, folks, you're getting a special treat, and it just happens to be a Power Thinking Plus member for past 6 years, and the person that you'll be seeing all day long, and more interviews, and he and his teammates. He got his start with Coach Tim, Coach Timothy Butts, and this what you're hearing here, you won't hear anyone else because they won't go back that far, but we go back that far because the inner strengths that we discuss at Power Thinking were formed at a very early age, and Timothy Butts was one of the folks, key people, to help build that character, build the humility, build the mental toughness of Jalen Brunson, who is known worldwide now.
Yes,
Probably will get the key to the city
probably will.
tomorrow at their session. So Timothy, any final words that you want to share with the group?
Well, I learned you can learn lessons from anyone, right? Even I, as an adult, watching a child, if they bring it, learn from it. And I love the fact that in working with other people, working with all of you, we all can learn something from each other every day, every moment. And the resilience, the I can do it, the efficacy, it's just played out, and it reinforces when you demonstrate it, when you decide to swim in it. I like to say swim in it because that was something his mom always told me. He would swim. Jalen would swim a lot to build up his whole muscular piece because
Wow.
he's 6'2", but everyone's talking about how small he is. 6'2" is not that small, but still, he's physically strong and mentally strong. So learn from the people around you. And frankly, surround yourself with strength. That way you can also be reinforced all the time, because it's clear his parents' values were instilled in him and his sister. And I'm just so grateful that they're in my life and that we all were able to go through a lot of things together. And I was rooting for him the whole way.
Fantastic. Well, Timothy, I'm grateful, and we're all grateful that you're part of Power Thinking. How can people get in touch with you?
Oh, me? My company, TebTech, we're online, tebtech.biz. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Timothy Butts, soon to be Dr. Timothy Butts.
Yeah,
And yeah,
love
hey.
it.
And direct dial to the company is 713-338-9602. That'll get to our switchboard, and then they'll forward messages over to me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again, Timothy. This was a fabulous discussion. We got insights that you won't get anywhere else, and only at Power Thinking. We're just so proud that you're part of the Power Thinking family. And everyone, have a great remainder of the week, a great weekend. Happy Father's Day to the fathers out there in advance. And remember, since we spend all of our time thinking these 50,000 thoughts a day, we must think with power and utilize power thinking. So I'm going to say good night to a few folks that we haven't had a chance to say good night to on the phone lines. For Carla and Gloria Harrison and Tracy McCullough and Bill Peterson and Soika White. We see Wireless Caller and everyone else. I think I missed you, Tracy McCullough. Thank you very much for being with us. Have a great remainder of the week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Goodbye.
And folks who are on LinkedIn, thank you so much for all of your dialogue, your comments. Really appreciate it. Take care, and we will see you next week. Remember to get a hold of that power thinking. I think